Hello, friends. Welcome back to another episode of Area 312. I'm one of your hosts, Kent, along with my co-host,
Rex,
and our other co-host.
Hi.
Friends, today we are welcoming back, we have two legends in Christian rock and metal, brothers Dale and Troy Thompson. Dale, welcome back to you, sir, and Troy, welcome, and thank you both for being here with us today. It's a privilege.
Oh, thank you.
Yep.
So we're just going to delve right into it, guys. Troy has an errand to run not too long from now, so we want to be respectful and get some good information in. And guys, we're just going to roll right into this. And what we're going to be specifically talking about and concentrating on, Dale and Troy Bride, they have released two albums, and one is Bluegrass Gospel, which has been released just a couple weeks ago, as well as Christmas. And so 'tis the season right now. We're approaching Thanksgiving. We're approaching December. And we just want to talk a little bit about both of those albums.
Johnny, you're rousing up your bow and play your fiddle hard. Cross hills from Bruce in Georgia and the devil deals in cards. If you win, you get the shiny fiddle made of gold. If you lose, the devil gets your soul.
A couple questions leading into that, though, gentlemen. Even prior to Bride's first release, during the Matrix years, the Thompson brothers have always been two peas in a pod, as we say here in the South where I'm at. You guys have always worked together as a unified collective. But I'm very curious. I am one of five siblings within my family, and I simply have to ask Dale and Troy, while growing up, did you two ever encounter a classic case of sibling rivalry?
No,
No.
no. I don't think we've ever had an argument.
That is awesome.
Yeah, we've had some, creative discussions, writing songs, but never, would escalate. If you believed in doing something, you really pushed it hard. But no, there's a respect there that is it's unusual for siblings, but we have it, so that's cool.
Yeah, I think that just that whole thing about if Dale had a gut feeling that something wasn't right, I'm like, okay, if he's not feeling it, then we'll move on. And he did the same. And we even applied that whole thing when we were traveling, taking shows, whatever. If something didn't feel right by one of us, we respected that for the other one.
Very cool. And I get that too. My brother and I have a few brothers, but we've always been respectful. When we were younger, though, had a few little squabbles, but I get it. So, Troy, this question's kind of aimed for you here. Now, Dale has graced us with a previous interview a couple months ago, and he told us some wonderful stories about growing up Thompson, so to speak, singing the old church hymns, the sweet smell of hanging tobacco on your grandfather's farm. Dale told us about Sweet Louise being a tribute to your grandmother, and musically speaking, how you all developed from a band performing music more closely associated to the band Police in that style, and then kind of gravitating into the metal and hard rock outfit that you all have become famous for. Troy, Dale mentioned initially metal wasn't your specific cup of tea. So looking back, Troy, are you fond of your hard rock and metal accomplishments that you all have quite an extensive catalog? Are you fond of the work, the body of work?
Yeah, of course. I think that the early stuff with the budgets we had and the time constraints, I mean, it's nothing to like really brag about. Show No Mercy was done for like $2,700, and it was kind of rushed, and we were dealing with a record company far away. So some of the early stuff was a little interesting, but on a whole, we've always made changes to the music as we felt fit. We weren't following any fad. We just wrote whatever we wanted to, and that's where we landed.
And there are certainly some classics. And I mean, all the albums are good, and there's some that especially stick out with me growing up since I first heard you in '86. Some great classics in there. So, Dale, you have one of the premier voices in hard rock and metal. You also have a great voice among many different genres. I mean, your voice is suited. I mean, you do the blues so well. You do the classic hymns so well. The material such as Dabster Gentleman, all wonderful stuff. And, you know, we're used to hearing you. Troy, aside from guitar, I have since we've been in contact with Dale, I have seen and heard you play cello, violin, piano, and mandolin. And I'd heard some of that stuff on the Drop album. Troy, if I may ask, how many different instruments do you play, and how early in your musical journey did you pick up on each of these instruments?
Some glad morning when this life is so round our way.
I started playing violin when I was 7, and later on switched to cello. But I do have, you know, several violins, violas, cellos that we record a lot with the Christmas album, and also with the Gospel Bluegrass album. Sometimes it sounds like a fiddle, but it's really a viola because I wanted a deeper, richer sound. Anything with strings makes sense to me. So, you know, ukuleles or, you know, banjos, any of that stuff makes sense. Music is mathematical. And if you understand the math and the theory behind it, you know, and the half steps and the whole steps and the chord progression, you know, it all makes sense. It's, you know, wind instruments make no sense to me, you know, but in terms of anything with strings or the piano, all of that stuff just mathematically just makes so much sense. So it's easy to do that stuff.
That brings me back to Dale's former interview, because Dale was talking about the mathematics of it all. And he said that's where I got into a little bit of trouble with some things, but it was very interesting because, Dale, I didn't realize until doing some research and looking into Matrix, you were a bass player. You know, you and I've seen pictures, and you played the bass back then and stuff. And so I remember you talking about the mathematics of it all too, Dale, in the former interview.
It had the less strings, so that
At least yeah.
So I went from playing sticks to spoons, and then we needed a bass player, so I said, well, it's only got 4 strings. I only played 2 of those strings anyway, so I was really back down to something I understood. So
yeah.
Troy, if I could ask, who were some of your, you know, artists or guitarists that you looked up to growing up, or that you think are, you know, up there just artistically that you enjoy?
When I first started, I really didn't listen to secular music at all. So there's a local musician, Dale's probably mentioning him, William Sutherland Billy. He was a huge influence on us, and he had influences like with Van Halen or whatever. And then, of course, there was Phil Keaggy. You know, you listen to people like him in the Christian genre, and, you know, it's pretty mind-blowing. But I don't know. I never really had a lot of guitar heroes or whatever. We just kind of, like I said, just picked things up and wrote what we felt.
Sure. Okay.
You should have asked him who his ukulele hero is. He probably won't admit it.
Okay, so who's your ukulele hero, Troy?
Well, probably Tiny Tim, of course.
Tiptoe through the tulips.
He could really shred. If I had my ukulele, I'd play and sing this for you now.
So the Thompson brothers are a dynamic duo in the vocal and music department. We've been blessed with your all's music for years. Troy, I've told Dale before that, of course, I can't help it. Please don't get mad at me, Dale. Live to Die just in a wonderful way hit me like a ton of bricks and introduced me to the artwork of Gustave Doré and all kinds of things. And you guys even scared me a little bit back in the day with the ending on that album. And Dale discussed that at length with us.
Oh, yeah.
And we like, after we get through talking about the Christmas album, we would want to talk about the remasters too that have been put out. But you guys are a dynamic duo and incorporating a variety of styles in Bride, solo, and side project releases. And this brings us to your most recent Bride albums, Bluegrass Gospel and Bride Christmas. So with Bluegrass Gospel, gentlemen, how long had you been working? There it is. how long have you all been working on that project up to its release point?
Oh, victory in Jesus, my Savior forever. He sought me and he bought me with his redeeming blood. He loved me and
How long was that? I don't even remember. It was an ongoing work. For me, I've done so many things while all of that was going on that, you know, I had my hands in a lot of different things, and I can't even remember. I just would know Troy would send me some music and say, we're doing How Great Thou Art today. I said, okay. So I just stopped whatever I was doing and record How Great Thou Art, send it back, or whichever song we did. We discussed the songs a bit, what we wanted to put on the album, or it wasn't even going to be an album to begin with. We were just recording it for fun, and then when we ended up with so many songs, then I think it was a mutual suggestion that we both agreed on that, you know, might be somebody who wants to hear it, you know, especially like, you know, family or somebody like that that actually seen us play the Southern gospel stuff in churches, things of that. But anyway, it is. Yeah, there's a little bit of everything on that album, so I'm quite happy with it and glad we did put it together as a package. I think it kind of started off, we were just recording it and then shooting a video out once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
And then it dawned on us, you know, we could become mega rich off this and selling it to people and pay off our buses and our planes that we have. Wait a second. I keep thinking I'm in another band. No, this was done for fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Like Dale said, we didn't start off going to release this. We actually wanted to record these old songs we grew up with our dad. And he plays a major role. Any banjo you hear on it is him. And then he sings, you know, quite a bit on it, on all the choruses, backups. And then he sings some verses. So we wanted to get this like printed, you know, this historic thing, because our dad is a fine musician, and he's definitely been a major influence, you know, in our direction, and his support. Him and my mom both have always supported us, even when other people did not. So we wanted to like capture this as, you know, a little time capsule, and so we shooting videos and stuff, and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, you know, we should release this. We had so many people requesting it, and so we did.
That was one of the things that I noted about your all's dad performing on this release with you. And I was just thinking to myself, what an honor that must be to have a, what am I trying to say? Like an imprint, a recorded product with your dad on there with you guys. And I would think that would be special, you know, and as well, Troy, if I'm not mistaken, your wife and children perform on Sleepy Southern Town. Is that right?
Yes, of course. It was originally a bride song, and Michelle, my wife, had sang backup on it on our bride demo as well. So you'll hear her there. But she's always really liked that song, and we've played it a lot. Just in the house, our house is full of music. Both my daughters were trained. They went to Youth Performing Arts School and trained in classical piano, and they can play anything, and much better than I can. And we wanted to include them in that as well, so that worked out nicely.
Watch the leaves turn again. Another winter's on its way. There's a fire in the sky. The devil will have his day. I can hear the winds of change, saying nothing will tear us apart under sweet moonlight.
Now, Dale and Troy, Dale, of course, you live in New Zealand now. And Troy, I'm guessing you have there's a home studio at your house. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And so the question here is, you know, Dale has moved to New Zealand, and you're there where you're at and in Kentucky. And does this make it harder to record for projects, or is it fairly simple due to have established a working system with the distance through modern technology? Is it fairly simple now?
Yeah, pretty much. Recording is easy. The collaboration takes more time because I can't get instant feedback, you know. what I do is I'll lay down a bunch of riffs and send it to Dale and give him the beats per minute. He can pull it into his DAW, his performing studio. And then if he has a change, I might not know it for a day. We're used to, he could say, we need to fix this right here, right now. And we would instantly change things. Or if I said, well, I think the vocal melody, needs to match the guitar or, just different things, we would know that instantly. But now we don't. And sometimes we have little Skype or not Skype, whatever they are, Facebook Messenger conferences, and we'll go over things that way as well. But it's not the same as when we're writing together, which we never did really write together. I would always write a bunch of music and Dale would write a bunch of lyrics separately. We'd get together. I'd play a riff. Dale would go through and say, does this match? Does this match? Do these words match? And we'd find something that best fit. So we used to do it that way anyway, but it, it's made the process longer, but it's not as hard as you think it would be,
Right.
Yeah. I completely agree with that because, for me on this end, I have full control of my vocal now. So I can go back and retake something 100 times and not cost me any money in a studio. So it's actually really good. Even though a lot of the bands that I've done, I just do like I've always called it a first impression, where whatever came to mind, I kept. But I don't do that with Bride. Bride, we dig in and try to get the best melodies we can and so forth. And so not that I don't give the other bands the same treatment, but I do like that first impression approach, and I did it with practically all of the other bands except for Bride.
And then even when we did all of our remakes of the classic songs that we've liked, it's kind of interesting. Even though you're remaking somebody else's song, it still can be a challenge, to get things together, and it just slows the process down.
Yeah, I think for me, doing the covers that we've done, I heard the song one way in my head my whole life. So I'm hearing, say the Phil Collins song we did, In the Air. I heard it in my head one way, but he was actually not singing it that way. So I had to relearn the bloody thing, because it was like, that's not what he's singing. Why was I singing it incorrectly, in my head? So the songs that you thought you knew, you really didn't know that well, or I didn't.
Well, Devil Went Down to Georgia, which we actually did put on our Bride Gospel Bluegrass album. That's on there, and we change it up a bit. We give the devil a better band, and in the end we have Johnny win. But the end of the song switches from a minor to a major key, and that befuddled Dale and I both for about a week. We couldn't figure out what we were doing wrong. It just wasn't working. And then all of a sudden, we started picking out notes and said, okay, now we know what's happening. So.
Gotcha. And Dale, you alluded to something, and that was one of my questions with regard to both albums, Bluegrass Gospel and Christmas, because they are essentially themed albums. Yes, sir. I love that cover too. No, I do. It's awesome. Totally awesome. And yeah, there's the Christmas card. So Dale, you alluded to something, and I was going to ask you both, with regard to creating themed albums such as Bluegrass Gospel and Christmas, do you both find the process harder or easier compared to creating an album of all original material? Because one requires choosing material and learning previously composed material, while the other requires creating something from scratch. Which did you find an easier process?
There ain't no grave gonna hold my body down. There ain't no grave gonna hold my body down.
For me, I think. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think other people's music is a lot easier because the chords, everything's laid out, the words, it's really simple. Like I recorded all the music for I'll Fly Away in about, 35 minutes or something. It's easy, when you're your own engineer and you're sitting there and you're pick up one instrument, you play it and pick up the next one, you can buzz right through things pretty quick.
Yeah, I agree.
So Dale, you were talking about singing Phil Collins in the Air tonight, and hearing the lyrics one way that you always thought you knew, and then realizing you didn't quite know it the way. How do you think I feel when I was trying to sing along to you doing Fool Me Once? My goodness. We were discussing that today, Rex and Mike and me, and I'm like, I love that song, but to this day, I have to look at the lyrics because you're like a locomotive through there.
It's kind of like, a good luck.
Oh.
So if I can ask, I'm sorry to interrupt, Kent, but like, what was the whole, what made you guys decide to do a Christmas album? I'm curious about that.
I pushed that pretty hard to Troy. I don't know if Troy can, he can answer it, but I don't think he was 100% keen at first, but that's the way that bride albums get done, because Troy's quite busy doing the entrepreneur stuff that he does. And so I have to push and say, we need to do a bride album now. We need to do a bride. He might not have any songs. And then when it clicks to him, yes, we need to do a bride album. Then we start working on it. Just like now, probably the first of the year, I'm going to be saying, Troy, we need to do a bride album. Troy, we need to do a bride album. And it's kind of like with the Christmas album too. For some reason, it just hit me after all these years that we should do. I've heard some of the other bands and their Christmas songs, and I'm just like, what were they thinking? And I didn't want to do that. So I want it to be done right. We had big discussions that if we're going to do one, let's do it. Just do it right. That's why we sent it to Brazil to have players on it and mixed and mastered and all that stuff. We went the same route we did primarily with like we did with Here Is Your God and Snake Eyes. It's just the same guy, Nanil, who mixed it. So we're going to keep that combination on the next album if all possible too.
Yeah, it's
quick question here. With the Bluegrass album, was there any question in your mind about whether or not to call that a bride album, since it was quite different?
Never came to mind, because for us it was more for our dad and our family association. It didn't have anything to do with bride, even though that's the way we have to sort of market it.
Okay.
Guys from Bride, yeah. So it's just that to use the bride name is just to sell it. But bride is nothing. There's no bride on that album at all. So
okay,
yeah.
And friends out there, Bluegrass Gospel, it released just a few weeks back. It's some wonderful church hymns that Dale had actually mentioned to us that was coming up on our former interview with Dale. But it also includes a neat rendition, and you've probably seen the video with Dale and Troy and their dad. The Devil Went Down to Georgia's on there, and also Man of Constant Sorrow are on there. If y'all remember that song, oh heck, what's the name of that movie?
Oh Brother Wartho.
Yes.
I am a man of constant sorrow. I see trouble all my day. I bid farewell to old Kentucky, the place where I was born and raised.
The place where he was born and raised.
So those are two neat treats on there too, as well as Sleepy Southern Town, which Troy's wife and children perform on, and that's great. So Bride Christmas, also released just a couple weeks back, featuring 14 songs, includes both a mellow and heavier version of Do You Hear What I Hear? So gentlemen, Dale and Troy, was this the only carol which received a dual treatment, or did you experiment with other carols in the same manner?
No, this was the only one that we thought about, and the idea to do it different, I think, was spawned by me, because I thought, the three wise men were being led by a star. So in our heavy version, I'm like, what would Satan think if he heard that the Savior of the world was born? What would the devil be thinking? What would he do? So it kind of maps out his journey as a serpent, going to the, the manger, not with the wise men, but kind of like on the same trajectory. And he wants to see the Savior of the world himself. And I'm sure when Christ was born, he knew, because Herod was killing children and everything at the time, so it wasn't a secret to him. So I thought that was interesting. So we collaborated with some of the lyrics and made it pretty heavy, and that's how that song came to be.
Well, and I really enjoy, the heavy version, Troy. The whole beginning of that, I mean, that could be a new bride song. I mean, the introduction to all of that is just spectacular. I love the whole song.
Thank you. Matter of fact, throughout the whole Christmas album, if anybody out there decides to purchase it from us, we added parts throughout the whole thing. I would add a brand new bridge where a bridge didn't exist. And sometimes we start off, pretty normal. Like you think it's just a regular Christmas song being done by a couple guys. And then all of a sudden it gets heavy, has riffs, all throughout it. So we wanted to do a hard rock Christmas album that wasn't cheesy, that was better than what we'd heard in the past by other people, and wrote some new material to go in them as well.
Well, and
that's why we didn't do the Little Drummer Boy or Frosty the Snowman or Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. We purposely omitted those because that is just not good metal.
Yeah, we wanted to stick with a Christian theme. We didn't want to do Walking in the Winter Wonderland, and this is supposed to be an album dedicated to the birth of Christ, and so that's what we tried to kind of stick with. Well,
and the song "What Child Is This" is kind of like that, where it's fairly soft and like the normal song, and then it gets heavy. It kind of goes into the Trans-Siberian Orchestra thing. Several of the songs, kind of have that feel too, but it's Bride. I mean, the whole album is really cool, guys. I really like it.
Well, thank you so much.
Troy and I are like Thelma and Louise. We jump in the car, we drive as fast as we can, and just when you think we can't get any faster, we take it right over the edge. So
give me a convertible and a girl in a white dress.
Yeah.
Whenever you were talking about that, Troy, the take on the heavy version of "Do You Hear What I Hear," it reminded me of the perspective. Well, it reminded me of that song right there, "I'm the Devil" from Drop, but the screw tape letters perspective, from the C.S. Lewis, from the devil's point of view, so to speak. So
right.
Norwegian composer Edvard Grieg, if I'm pronouncing that right. And by the way, Dale, with all respect, sir, I have a bone to pick with you, and I know you'll mop the floor with me, but I mispronounced Plinky's last name when you and I were doing an interview, and we had Jonathan, and I'm not sure I can even pronounce his name right, but Jonathan from Novella, as we were discussing. Yeah, but it might be the soft Italian G. I'm afraid to pronounce Jonathan's last name, but he corrected me, and I'm like, Dale never told me I was mispronouncing the name, so I'm like, oh. But
Blinky's like Madonna or Sting. He only has one name, so.
That's right.
But, the thing of it is if I don't know how much you know about New Jersey, but nobody's name is pronounceable that lives in New Jersey. It's something they do. It's a whole different community altogether. It's very odd. Very odd.
Oh, shoot. Well, Norwegian composer Edvard Grieg, In the Hall of the Mountain King, that was also incorporated on the Christmas album. Dale, you had rewritten the lyrics to reflect the Christmas theme. So Dale, what was your process then on pairing the Grieg's musical composition with the birth of the Messiah, the Christmas story? Was that hard for you to do in that regard?
No, I wrote the song in probably 15, 20 minutes, lyrics. And then because it accelerates and speeds up along the way, I had to really spit some words out. I could have did that vocally better, but how much better compared to the aggravation that it was causing me? It wasn't worth it. So, but no, that's a song that we heard first, or I did anyway, in music class, and probably second, third, fourth grade or something. They played that piece and captivated me. And then Troy's a big ELO fan, and they did probably the best version of that song that I've heard. It's just brilliant. And so yeah, I was like, yeah, we need to incorporate that. Bring a little bit of the old childhood in, and some of that Gothic sounds of just really cool riff all the way through it. But yeah, it didn't take long to write the lyrics for that. A matter of fact, I think I had too many lyrics and had to edit.
It took forever to write the music. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
I was going to ask that, Troy.
It's okay. Yeah. It's yeah. You could have just listened. It's like, no, never mind.
But it's really heavy. That is heavy. How long did it take you to write that, Troy?
I mean, the main riff is written, but we throw a middle section in there, and then when it came to the end, Dale kept saying bigger, bigger. Every time I do something, he's like, we got to make it bigger, make it longer, make it bigger. And I'm like, okay. So we came up with, some sort of a 2-minute ending or something. I don't know. It was interesting, but it took a long time. And then the way we had to speed it up because of the limitations of my studio, we incremented each section 10 beats per minute. It's not a gradual thing. It seems kind of gradual, but you'll notice at the end of each verse or whatever phrase, it actually jumps up 10 beats instantly. It's not a gradual thing. So I wish we could have done it gradual, but that's just not possible without everybody being in the same room.
We had a drummer once that could have did that, who always sped up when he played. So that would have been perfect. He should have got him for it.
Our beloved Dale moved to New Zealand. So I've got to ask really quick, and please forgive me, guys. Troy, I'm a huge ELO fan. What's your favorite ELO song? Do you have a favorite?
Not so much a song as Out of the Blue. That whole album was incredible.
Yeah.
And then even before that, some of the earlier stuff like Waterfall. I mean, that's an old one.
That's the one right there for me.
But Jeff Lynne is a melody maker, and I would love for anybody to compare me to him. That would just be awesome. But
Troy, have I ever told you remind me a lot of Jeff Lynne?
Not recently. Not recently.
The Waterfall is one. I mean, and I'm like you. It's hard to pick one, and so much greatness. But the Waterfall and Can't Get It Out of My Head. Just I always kind of revert to those. But we're talking about Bride today, gentlemen. When did you first begin working on the Christmas album? How far until its release? How long did it take you guys to develop it and then up to release time?
Probably 6 months.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking, about 6 months.
Because we were done with it way back in May, but then we sent it to Brazil to have Nino put bass on it and drums and mix it and master it. And he got hit with COVID and had all kinds of problems, so that delayed us a little bit. But we actually had it manufactured and in hand in like July. But obviously we didn't want to sell it that soon. That would have been difficult. So we waited about, a month or so.
Is it difficult, and forgive me, this is going to be a freshman question, and I realize this, but I just have to wonder, is it difficult to sing a seasonal song when it's not quote unquote the season? And I know every day is the Lord's and we're celebrating him and worshiping him, but regard to the seasonal feel, is that kind of difficult?
I didn't have any problem with it really, because every song has a different theme, and since I'm singing for so many bands, and I have to write lyrics and stuff according to the band I'm recording for at the time, so I have to shift gears a lot. So to shift to Christmas, or do a Christmas song and then that afternoon do a bluegrass song, and then even one more song, a metal song at the end of the day. I recorded 6 songs in 3 days, not too long ago. They were all different. So for me, you just look at the song and see what it needs and do it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, a lot of the things that people don't see. I mean, like some of our songs on the Christmas album would have like 45 tracks. And people don't realize that Dale would send me 10 vocal tracks. And I was responsible, for mixing a basic mix. And I would have 5 or 6 guitars, 3 or 4 violins, 5 violins, several cellos, all kinds of things in order to layer things properly. And when you mix digitally, I don't want to get too technical or whatever, but instead of like back in the old days to save tape and save tracks, you double track things like, oh, we have a background vocal and a guitar and a solo on this track 3. You don't have to do that anymore. If you just want to hit one power chord, you make a whole new track for it.
Right.
Because when it comes to mixing, it makes it so much easier. So for me doing all the music by myself, it took a long time for the Christmas album. I mean, it's not like I brought in, 4 or 5 other string players.
Mhm.
I would play one string, play another one, play another one, play another one, play another one, make sure they're kind of in tune and with the beat. And then you go back and you play a guitar, then another guitar, then another guitar, then an acoustic guitar, then a mandolin, then a solo. It takes a long time when you're doing all the music, so. And same thing with Dale. He sends 10 vocals. He may just have 4 or 5 words on one track, but that's okay. It makes it easier to mix. So
Right.
Over Israel, origins are from ancient times.
I also need to say that German Baroque composer Johann Pachelbel's Canon, or Canon in D, it was also performed for inclusion on this album. Gentlemen, what was the catalyst for including this composition for the album?
It wasn't going to be on this album. We just wanted, that was my favorite song, Christmas song. So I wanted to record it during the classic series that we were doing, some of our favorite classic songs. And since it was a Christmas theme, I think Troy suggested we might as well put it on this album because it fits.
Right.
that's it. Yeah, we did that one and the Hallelujah by I can't remember the guy. Yeah, Leonard Cohen. We went ahead and threw that on here too, even though it's not a Christmas thing. We already had it recorded and we liked it. So
Yeah. So,
I have a quick question. So were you guys pretty set on the songs you wanted to do for this album, or did you consider others that you didn't end up doing?
I think we covered them all. I think if there had been something else we felt strongly about, we would have done it. There's actually a couple songs here that I'll tell you straight up that I didn't know until until I heard Rob Halford do them. It was these three kings. I didn't know how that song went. I had to watch Rob Halford's version of that to record it. There's a couple songs like that I wasn't as familiar with, because we come from a Methodist Pentecostal background, so some of those songs we never sang. So it was, that must be a Catholic song. I don't know.
yeah, you did not sing all the verses, that's for sure. And the other thing about Christmas songs for any musicians out there, if you play them right, you play all the chords. There's not just 3 chords in a Christmas song. There's all the chords, and they change sometimes every word.
Yeah,
So
they're
tricky.
They're hard to
Complicated
play.
music.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like being an orchestra or being a tuba player. That's pretty tough.
Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Your faith was strong, you needed proof, you saw her bathing.
So, with regard to some of the things for Bride's future, Dale, in our previous interview, you had mentioned 2018 Snake Eyes and 2020's Here's Your God. Of course, being conducive for a third album of similar scope and style. So, gentlemen, is there any material currently in the works for a new album of this nature to kind of make it a trilogy of sorts?
I've written
No.
one riff.
So we got a
I've
riff, okay?
I've got 50 sets of 50 lyrics that I've put to the side waiting for Troy to send me songs. So I write exclusively for bride songs. So these lyrics are not for anybody else but the bride projects. And whereas most of the time, if in recent days I recorded a couple of trilogy series of songs for Haunted No More. So I sat down fresh and wrote those lyrics right then. But for bride, I've got all the lyrics written that I'm going to write unless the song changes and I need to do modifications. So my part is ready. I'm just standing by.
Is that a little hint to Brother Troy?
Well, I go down to my studio and I put my headphones on, and what I do is I sit with my guitar, my 1968 Gibson SG, and I pull up different sounds and I hit different drum beats with different tempos and I just start playing. And if something is like, wow, I can't believe I just came up with that, then it gets recorded as a riff. But 90% of the stuff I play is just junk. So, you just it just takes a long time to get inspired to where instead of writing more junk than good stuff, you start like getting inspired and you hit on to something and you're like, okay, now I've got it. You try dropping D, you drop to A, you play high on the neck, low on the neck, speed the tempo, anything to inspire you. But sometimes it needs to just to be colder for me to write music. I need to be cold. So
It's going to be cold in January.
Yeah, it's going to be very cold. Coming up very soon.
I think that's a hint, Troy.
All right, so it's going to be cold in January. So new Bride album.
Yes, I think when we write anything, though, it all starts from the riff. It starts from the hook. My most favorite Bride album is "This Is It," and it's the production could have been better, but the songs are just slamming brilliant. And if you listen to those, it's riff after riff after riff. And I remember telling Troy, we need another riff. Do another riff. We need riffs for intro, riffs for verses, pre-choruses, choruses, bridges. Keep riffing this thing, man. And he did. And then the whole album is just smoking. And if we could do another album similar to that with the productions that we're getting now, it would be a real standout. So that's the thing. It starts with the riff.
So the question I have then is, the way an album goes stylistically, is that just kind of driven by whatever Troy comes up with, or do you guys? So, like, for example, when you guys did the Drop album, that was obviously a change in style for that one album. Did you talk about that beforehand, or is that just the way Troy went at the time?
That was deliberate. We basically had it with all the comparisons that we were getting to Guns N' Roses and all these bands, and we were like, I didn't want to be compared to Nirvana. I didn't want to be compared to Guns N' Roses. I felt like, they couldn't even drive in our dust at that time. We were the best live band in the world at that particular time. So I decided to shipwreck us and do Drop, and pushed everybody to think acoustic on it. And everybody stepped up to the plate, and we ended up with this incredible album that was so misunderstood, and people have wrote to me and asked forgiveness years later that they criticized that album and now they think it's one of our best. So it's pretty weird.
I actually thought it was great at the time. So.
Yeah, but see, you had good taste.
You're the one. You're the one.
Well, then I'm number two. Then
there's a second.
Troy,
that album has aged very well, and it was good back then. And there's so many, It Only Hurts When I Laugh. That song right there. Oh shoot! You were talking about the tattoos, Dale, in that song, and I got you inspired me to get tattoos, and I have tattoos because of you. I told you that last time. But I love that
Anything-
song, and Life is the Blues. Such
Oh,
a
yeah,
great
that's
song.
great.
And Troy, your mandolin in there. I mean, wonderful album, guys. And it's only, and I told you also, Dale, last time, some of my favorite Bride lyrics, and there's several of them, but some of my favorite Bride lyrics, if Jesus Christ offends you, you wear X's in your eyes. Those lyrics tattooed my eyes. I've never forgotten those lyrics because they're very powerful.
Yeah.
What it's saying. And so great album, guys. I applaud you right here and now for that album. So
Troy, can I put you on the spot? Dale has told us what his favorite Bride album is. Could I ask you what yours is? Or a couple?
Yeah, I was going to say there's like a three-way tie. Snakes in the Playground. I mean, I think that was our Appetite for Destruction. And then I like Zarbamba and Here's Your God.
Okay.
I do like This Is It and Drop and Oddities and Jesus. I like them all.
Yeah.
But in terms of like not skipping over songs or, wanting to go back to those albums, those are the three that I hit a lot,
Okay.
well, we need to talk really quick, guys, and I'm looking at the time, and wish to be respectful of Troy's time. Dale, the party after Troy leaves, we'll have the party. So no. So also we want to mention though, there recently Show No Mercy, Live to Die, and Silence is Madness have been remastered on gold disc. So Rex has those, and I'm still waiting for Christmas to come around when my wife will hopefully bless me with some Bride stuff. But let's talk about those. Rex, what'd you think about your remasters that you've already gotten?
Well, of course, they're I feel, better than the originals. It's probably the best they're going to be able to be done. And with the first one, Show No Mercy, as Troy said too, the budget to record that, you're going to be limited as to, how well you can make that. But I feel this is, the best sounding that it's probably going to be. I really liked Live to Die. I really noticed for some reason that sounded, I felt much better. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I really like that album too, but and the booklets are great. What I liked was I'm assuming you guys provided that. There's like demos and live tracks on every single one. Guys, did you guys give that to Matt Hunt, or how did they get those demos?
This is actually the first I'm hearing of any of this. So Troy better answer because I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, I'll probably I have to work with Matt more closely than Dale because I'm stateside and I have all the material. So some of it I'll pass his way, and then some of it I think he has other people providing. But we work on the design process. He sends stuff for us to be approved, and we look through it and make sure there's not any misrepresentations, because we don't want that to happen with the band. But we do work with, or at least I work with Matt pretty close on a lot of this stuff.
Very cool.
Matt.
Matt Hunt.
Who's this guy? Do we know this guy?
Oh,
I
my.
know that dude.
Throw one up at Dale too.
Well, let me see here. Okay. If I can find it. Now you put me on the spot.
You know who was making our costumes back then was Troy's wife, was doing a lot of sewing.
Michelle?
So
Yeah, Michelle.
I always wanted the big thing, like the big cape, like I would imagine that Ozzy would be wearing. So I always in the early days, if you notice, I wore outliner, and I purposely wanted it to run down my face, kind of like the Patti Smith. Anyway, yeah. Her makeup would just run down her face, and she didn't care. And then Ozzy, so I had the big cape and stuff. I asked Michelle, I get some material here. Can you put some frilly stuff on it? Then we go out wearing basically fancy bathrobes, and so it's pretty funny.
Fancy bathrobes.
Yeah.
I remember that one of Silence is Madness, and I think Troy was wearing a quote unquote bathrobe, and it had like foxtails or something looking things off of it, but
Oh yeah.
The
Anyway.
booklets are incredible, Troy. you know, the booklets, there's pictures galore. You know, there's an interview. There's 3-part interviews for each one of the disc. I mean, this is very well done, you know. Yeah.
What other projects you guys have going on now? Dale, you mentioned another Boondocks in the works, right?
I'm working with a guy named Greg Campbell who played bass on the Boondocks. He approached me with the idea of putting together a library of songs. So we're at about 60 songs now that we've recorded, and I see I've got messages from Greg that I'll address after we finish up here. We're doing the Boondocks full throttle. Possibly we'll go back to Gerder music with that. That's another album that gets sent to Brazil, where I've got a drummer in Brazil that's going to play. He's already started tracking, and he'll actually mix it. I just had a Southern Cross release this week. That is with Gary Sullivan. That is fantastic if you like old school hard rock with keyboards. You know, it's got Lita Ford's live organist on it. It's got some famous drummer. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but it's a real cool album. We've got Haunted No More material coming out. We got Dabster Gentleman material coming out. Iron 501. They just sent me proofs for those. The next album. So all of those albums now are with labels. So that, I mean, I've just got a full thing. You know, I'll probably have maybe eight albums released next year with different bands.
Mm-hmm.
And then with our Bride stuff, you know, we'll just work on it as we go. But, you know, I'm sure that, you know, we'll be writing for that, you know, on a serious level soon. So
starting in January when it's cold.
Starting in January, the coldest months, January, February.
Yeah, my projects
a
lately
song
have been
a
like
week
trying to make a vineyard and stuff like that. So yeah,
Making a vineyard.
hasn't been exactly music related. So yeah, I gotta.
Troy's doing the entire Gethsemane, Bethany, the whole thing there. You know, it's turning his entire property into a little Jerusalem.
I got 10 acres, so it's going to take a while.
Very cool. So, gentlemen, the place to go then for all things Bride, including the new Bride Gospel, Bluegrass Gospel, Bride Bluegrass Gospel, and Bride Christmas, that would be bridepub.com, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. And we will make sure to put that in the description. Gentlemen, just want to say, as of this interview, the 6th of November, 2021, 35 years have passed since Bride's first official release, Show No Mercy, made its way to the fans, reflecting upon your journey of music and ministry, in spite of any potholes which may have been in the road or speed bumps, you know, regarding labels and such along the path. Dale and Troy, each of you, what has given you the most joy with the journey that is Bride?
I would say just, you know, being able to work closely with my brother, who is, you know, has always been my best friend. So just traveling the world with him, doing albums with him, having him getting me out of situations that I shouldn't have got myself into, or explaining to someone what I meant to say instead of what I actually said, stuff like that. So yeah, it's been a good journey, and, you know, we'll see where it goes from here, you know.
Yeah, I mean, the traveling and getting to spread the word through all of the nations, and then of course, you know, being my brother's keeper, that's always been a challenge. So yeah.
Oh, well, friends out there, we are grateful to have both Dale and Troy Thompson, the Thompson brothers, and they've been ministering to us now for over 35 years. Very thankful. It's a privilege to have you both on. And bridepub.com, friends out there, to go check out the Bluegrass Gospel. They do have, for both Bluegrass and Christmas, they do have a sampler up there where you can listen in and check it out. And so before we do close out, guys, looking at the time for Troy, Mike's our resident minister. Mike, would you please take us to scripture closeout, buddy?
So bring him peace and stone and mud, compare some cheap to love.
Isaiah 9:6. For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government will be upon his shoulder, and his name will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace.
Amen. To that.
Amen.
The Lord
I
Jesus.
thought those were original lyrics, Dale.
I may have borrowed some.
plagiarizing the Lord. No, nothing wrong with that. So Dale and Troy, thank you so much. It's an honor and a privilege. Thank you both for ministering
Appreciate
to
it.
us throughout the years and for spending some time fellowshipping with us today. So
Yeah, thank you for having us. It's great. Somebody wants to talk to us.
so we hope to do it again come the new year.
Yes.
So
Yes.
you all are welcome anytime, and thank you for blessing us. And we'll just sign off to our friends out there. Thank you everybody for watching. Dale and Troy, if you would, I'm gonna hit the stop button, but hang around for one more moment, okay?